The underground facility smelled like burnt metal, and something else Captain Lee Hun couldn't quite identify. He moved through the dark corridor with his rifle raised, his team spread out behind him in tactical formation. The mission briefing had been simple. Infiltrate the abandoned base, secure any weapons or intelligence, and get out before enemy patrols arrived. "Captain, I'm picking up movement 2 levels down," Kim Nari whispered through the comm system. She was their communications expert, always the first to notice anything unusual. Could be automated defense systems. Could be something else. Lee Hyun signaled for the team to halt. They had been fighting the Quilver Empire for 3 years now, and every mission felt like it could be their last. The war had started over a border dispute that spiraled out of control. Now thousands were dying on both sides, and nobody seemed to remember why it all began. "Park Taeyang, what's your assessment?" Lee Hyun asked. The demolitions expert checked his scanner and frowned. "Structure's unstable, Captain. Recent orbital bombardment compromised the support columns. We've got maybe an hour before this whole place comes down. Then we move fast. Stay sharp." They descended deeper into the facility. The walls were covered in strange symbols that marked this as Quilvar construction. Lee Hyun had seen enough of their bases to recognize the architecture. But something felt wrong. Intelligence had said this place was abandoned weeks ago. The movement Kim Nari detected suggested otherwise. At the bottom level, they found a massive door that had been forced open from the inside. Beyond it lay a chamber filled with destroyed equipment and scattered data cores. In the center of the room, surrounded by makeshift barricades, was a figure. She was tall, almost 7 feet, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the emergency lighting. Her eyes were larger than human eyes, with vertical pupils that contracted as the team's flashlights hit her. She wore torn royal garments that were stained with dark blood. In her 4-fingered hands, she clutched something small and metallic. "Don't move!" Lee Hyun shouted, his rifle trained on her. The alien princess raised her hand slowly, still clutching the metallic object. She spoke in her own language, a series of melodic sounds that the team's basic translation software struggled to interpret. The device on Lee Hyun's wrist flickered with partial translations. "No weapon. Help. They're coming. She's wounded," Corporal Yoon Do-hyun observed. He was their medic, trained to notice injuries even in alien physiology. "Left side, deep laceration. She's lost a lot of blood." "Could be a trap," Lieutenant Choi Bora said from her position near the entrance. She was their pilot and the most cautious member of the team. "We find one injured alien in an abandoned base, and suddenly we're supposed to play rescue?" Kim Nari moved closer, her rifle lowered slightly. She had always been the most curious about the Quilvar, often wondering what they were really like beyond the battlefield. "Captain, look at what she's holding." "That's not a weapon. It's a data core. High-capacity one, too." The alien princess spoke again, and this time the translation was clearer. "Information. Both sides. All lies. They want me dead." Lee Hyun felt a cold sensation in his chest. They had come here expecting weapons, but instead they'd found something potentially more dangerous. An enemy who claimed to have information that both sides wanted buried. Every instinct told him to walk away, to pretend they'd never seen her. But something in her eyes reminded him of the soldiers he'd lost. That same desperate look of someone who knew they were running out of time. "Captain, we need to decide now," Park Taeyang urged. "This structure won't hold much longer." The facility groaned around them as if to emphasize the point. Dust fell from the ceiling, and somewhere far above, something heavy crashed to the ground. "She's protecting that data core like it's worth dying for," Kim Nari said quietly. "What if she's telling the truth? What if there's something on there that could end this war? Or start another one," Choi Bora countered. "We bring back an enemy princess, command will have our heads." Lee Hyun had seconds to make a decision that would change everything. He thought about his brother, killed in the first year of the war. He thought about all the friends he'd buried, all the families destroyed. What if this alien, this enemy, actually knew something that could stop the killing? "Yoon Do-hyun, stabilize her. We're taking her with us." "Captain, are you serious?" Choi Bora's voice was sharp with disbelief. "We came here for intelligence. She's got it. We extract her, we extract the data, and we let command decide what to do with both." Lee Hyun moved toward the princess, keeping his weapon ready. "Tell her she's coming with us. Tell her if she tries anything, we won't hesitate." Kim Nari spoke into her translator, and the princess responded with what sounded like relief. She allowed Yoon Do-hyun to approach and begin treating her wound. As he worked, the princess kept the data core pressed against her chest, her large eyes watching every member of the team with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. "We need to move now," Park Tae-yang shouted. Another explosion rocked the facility, closer this time. "The whole place is coming apart." They ran through the collapsing corridors with the alien princess between them. Yoon Do-hyun and Park Tae-yang supported her as she struggled to keep pace. Her blood left a trail behind them. Glowing faintly in the darkness, Lee Hyun led the way while Kim Nari and Choi Bora covered their retreat. They burst out of the facility just as the main structure collapsed behind them. The princess fell to her knees, gasping in the thin atmosphere of the moon. She looked back at the rubble, then at the humans who had saved her life, and spoke a single word that the translator rendered clearly. "Thank you." Lee Hyun stared at her, at this enemy who was supposed to be nothing more than a target. In her eyes he saw something he hadn't expected to find. Someone who was just as tired of the war as he was. Someone who might actually have answers. "Get her on the ship," he ordered, "and pray we didn't just make the biggest mistake of our lives." As they moved toward their extraction point, none of them noticed the distant glint of scanners tracking their movements. The hunt had already begun. The transport ship shuddered as it weaved through the asteroid field. Lieutenant Choi Bora's hands moved across the controls with practiced precision, but even she looked stressed. Behind her in the small medical bay, Corporal Yoon Do-hyun was trying to treat a patient who refused to cooperate. "She won't let me near her," Yoon Do-hyun said in frustration. "Every time I try to check the wound, she pulls away and clutches that damn data core tighter." Princess Velthara sat on the medical bench, her pale blue skin now looking almost gray from blood loss. She spoke rapidly in her language, the translation device struggling to keep up. The words came out choppy. "Safe first. Data must be safe. Then help." Captain Lee Hyun entered the medical bay, his armor still covered in dust from the collapsed facility. He had been debating with himself for the past hour about whether he'd made the right call. Bringing back an enemy alien, especially one who claimed to have dangerous information, was either brilliant or suicidal. Command would decide which. "She's saying the data has to be secured before she'll accept treatment," Kim Nari explained. She had been sitting nearby, trying to establish better communication with their unexpected passenger. "She doesn't trust us yet. Can't really blame her. She's going to die if she doesn't let Yoon Do-hyun work on that wound," Lee Hyun said flatly. He approached the princess slowly, making sure she could see his hands. "Listen, whatever's on that core, it won't matter if you bleed out. We saved your life once. Why would we let you die now?" Velthara's large eyes fixed on him, and for a moment Lee Hyun felt like she was looking straight through him. She spoke again, and this time her words were clearer through the translator. "Your leaders want war. My leaders want war. This proves why. If data lost, truth lost. You understand?" "I understand you're about to pass out from blood loss," Lee Hyun replied. "Park Tae-yang, get me a secure storage container. Military-grade encryption." The demolitions expert nodded and disappeared into the cargo hold. He returned with a small black box covered in security features. Lee Hyun took it and showed it to Velthara. "This container is coded to my biometrics only. I'll seal your data core inside. Nobody can access it except me." "Will that work?" The princess studied him for a long moment. Then slowly she extended her hand and placed the data core in the container. Lee Hyun sealed it and attached it to his belt. The moment he did, Velthara's body relaxed and she nearly collapsed backward. "Now can I do my job?" Yoon Do-hyun asked, already moving forward with medical equipment. For the next 20 minutes, the medic worked to stabilize their alien patient. Her biology was different from humans, but not so different that basic trauma care didn't apply. As Yoon Do-hyun worked, Kim Nari continued trying to communicate with Velthara through the improving translation software. "She's royalty," Kim Nari finally announced. "A princess." She was investigating unauthorized communications between high-ranking military officials on both sides. Her own people betrayed her, tried to kill her and destroy the evidence. "What kind of communications?" Lee Hyun demanded. Velthara struggled to sit up, her wound now properly sealed and bandaged. She spoke carefully, letting the translator catch every word. "War is orchestrated. Both sides manipulated. Third party benefits from conflict. They infiltrate governments, push for escalation. Your people and my people are victims." "That's insane," Choi Bora said from the cockpit. "You're saying someone is making us fight each other?" "Why? They feed on conflict," Velthara replied. Ancient species called Vryn. They consume psychic energy generated by violence and fear. Long ago my people knew of them, we forgot. Now they return and we don't see them. Park Taeyang laughed, but it was a bitter sound. So we're pawns in some alien sick game? That's what you're selling? I'm not selling anything, the princess said, her voice growing stronger. I'm trying to survive long enough to warn everyone. The data core has proof. Communication showing Vryn agents in both command structures. They push us toward extinction while they grow fat on our suffering. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. Choibora cursed and began evasive maneuvers. We've got contacts. 3 Quilvar hunter ships coming in fast. They found us. How? Park Taeyang demanded. We covered our tracks. Velthara closed her eyes. They track me. Royal family has biological markers. They can follow me anywhere in this sector. Li Hyun felt his stomach drop. You're telling me this now? You didn't ask, the princess replied simply. The ship rocked as weapons fire passed close by. Choibora pushed the engines harder, diving between asteroids that would have crushed a less skilled pilot. Captain, we can't outrun them. These hunter ships are faster and better armed. We need to make a choice. The choice was clear. Jettison the alien princess and maybe escape or fight 3 heavily armed enemy ships with their small transport. By any military logic, the answer was obvious. Li Hyun looked at his team, saw the same calculation running through their minds. Then he looked at Velthara. She sat on the medical bench, wounded and exhausted, but her eyes were clear. She wasn't begging for her life. She just waited, accepting whatever they decided. How do we beat them? Li Hyun asked. Captain? Choibora sounded shocked. I asked how we beat them. 3 ships, lots of firepower, but they're hunting 1 target in an asteroid field. We can use that. Li Hyun turned to Velthara. Your people's ships, what are their weaknesses? For the first time since they'd found her, the princess smiled. It was a strange expression on her alien features, but unmistakably a smile. Scanners are tuned to biological signatures. They don't track debris well. If you can make explosion between asteroids, they will lose sensor locks. Park Taeyang, you're up, Li Hyun ordered. How fast can you rig charges on asteroid clusters? The demolitions expert grinned. Give me 5 minutes. What followed was the most intense 5 minutes of their lives. Choibora flew the ship through impossible spaces while Park Taeyang leaned out of the cargo bay, magnetically attaching explosive charges to asteroids as they passed. The hunter ships stayed close, firing continuously, their shots getting closer with each pass. Charges set, Park Taeyang shouted. Just give me the signal. Velthara, tell me when they're all in the kill zone, Li Hyun said. The princess watched the tactical display, her large eyes tracking the pursuing ships. She raised one hand, fingers extended. Then she counted down. 3, 2, 1. Now do it, Li Hyun shouted. Park Taeyang triggered the charges. The asteroids exploded in a chain reaction, sending massive chunks of rock tumbling through space. The hunter ships, flying too close and too fast, couldn't avoid the debris field. 2 of them took direct hits and went spinning away, damaged and leaking atmosphere. The 3rd managed to dodge but lost sensor lock in the chaos. Choibora didn't wait. She punched the engines and shot out of the asteroid field before the enemy could recover. In the sudden quiet that followed, the team looked at each other with a mixture of relief and disbelief. They had just survived impossible odds by working with their enemy. Li Hyun turned to Velthara. That data core better be worth it, the princess nodded slowly. It is worth everything. And now I owe you life debt. In my culture, this is sacred bond. Let's just focus on staying alive long enough to use whatever intelligence you're carrying, Li Hyun replied. But as he said it, he realized something had changed. They had chosen to fight for her instead of abandoning her. That choice made them all complicit in whatever came next. Kim Nari touched his shoulder gently. We did the right thing, Captain. Li Hyun wished he could believe that. But right now, with both human and Quilvar forces likely hunting them, he wasn't sure they had done anything except sign their own death warrants. The neutral trade station looked like it had been built from scrap metal and desperate hope. It floated in unclaimed space, a place where humans, Quilvar, and a dozen other species could meet without starting a war. Captain Li Hyun had been here once before, years ago, when peace still seemed possible. Commander Han Minho was waiting for them at the docking bay. He was a thin man with sharp eyes that missed nothing. He watched as the team escorted Princess Velthara off the ship, his expression carefully neutral. Captain Li Hyun, I got your encrypted message, Han Minho said. Though I have to admit I thought you were joking about bringing back an alien princess. Command is going to have questions. I have answers, Lee Hyun replied. But first we need a secure room and someone who can actually translate properly. This basic software isn't good enough. Han Minho nodded and led them deep into the station. They passed through markets where species that were killing each other in space somehow managed to trade peacefully. Velthara drew stairs, but nobody interfered. The station's rules were absolute. Violence meant permanent exile. They entered a shielded conference room where a woman was waiting. She was older, with gray hair pulled back severely, and she stood up when she saw Velthara. Her eyes went wide with recognition. By the ancestors, she whispered. That's Princess Velthara of the Royal House. I've seen her in diplomatic footage. You speak Quilvar? Kimnari asked. Dr. Song Yoonji, xenolinguist, the woman introduced herself. I've spent 20 years studying their language and culture. Before the war, I was part of the diplomatic corps. She turned to Velthara and spoke in flowing Quilvar. The princess responded, and for the first time, Lee Hyun heard her speak without the choppy translation filter. Her voice was melodic and complex, full of subtle harmonics that human vocal cords couldn't reproduce. Dr. Song Yoonji listened intently, asking questions, her expression growing darker with each answer. She wants to tell you everything, Dr. Song Yoonji finally said. But first, she needs to see the data core. She needs to know it's safe. Lee Hyun unlocked the container from his belt and placed it on the table. Velthara reached for it with trembling hands, then connected it to the room's display system. The screens filled with files, communications, and recorded conversations. For the next 3 hours, they watched and listened as Dr. Song Yoonji translated. The evidence was overwhelming and horrifying. The Vrin were real. They were parasitic beings that could influence thoughts and emotions without being detected. They had infiltrated both human and Quilvar governments years before the war started. Every escalation, every failed peace talk, every act of terrorism that had pushed the conflict forward had been carefully orchestrated. They don't take control completely, Velthara explained through Dr. Song Yoonji. They enhance existing fears and prejudices. They make angry people angrier, make suspicious people more paranoid. They feed on the psychic energy released during violence, especially mass casualties. The more we fight, the stronger they become. How do we know you're not one of them? Commander Han Minho asked bluntly. How do we know this isn't just propaganda? Velthara looked at him sadly. You don't. But this data was compiled by my own intelligence service before they were compromised. I was ordered to destroy it and forget what I learned. When I refused, they tried to kill me. She gestured to her healing wound. My own brother led the attack. Park Tae-yang studied the data carefully. These communication patterns, they're consistent with what we've seen from high command. Orders that don't make tactical sense. Missions that seem designed to maximize casualties instead of achieve objectives. I've noticed that too, Lieutenant Choi Bora admitted quietly. But I thought it was just military bureaucracy. It was manipulation, Velthara said. The Vrin are patient. They have been planning this for decades. They want both our species extinct or enslaved. Then they move to the next civilization. Commander Han Minho leaned back in his chair, his calculating mind working through the implications. This information could change everything. It could end the war. But it could also cause massive panic and political upheaval. People will demand to know who in leadership was compromised. That's why they want me dead, Velthara explained. Not just Quilvar leadership. Your human command is also compromised. If I reach Earth or the Quilvar homeworld with this data, the Vrin's plan fails. So what do you suggest? Lee Hyun asked. We can't fight both militaries and an alien parasite species. We broadcast the data, Kim Nari said suddenly. We send it to every news outlet, every military channel, every communication network we can reach. Make it impossible to suppress. That would be treason, Commander Han Minho said carefully. Releasing classified intelligence without authorization? Command would court-martial everyone involved. Command is compromised, Lee Hyun replied. You heard the evidence. If we go through official channels, this data disappears and we disappear with it. The room fell silent. They all knew what he was saying was true, but saying it out loud made it real. They were talking about going against their own government, becoming fugitives, all based on the word of an enemy alien. Commander Han Minho stood up. I need to consult with the station commander. Stay here. Don't do anything stupid. As soon as he left, Park Tae-yang shook his head. We can't trust him. Did you see how he looked at the princess? He's already calculating how to use this for political advantage. Or he's calculating how to hand us over to command and save his career. Choi Bora added. Velthara spoke urgently to Dr. Song Yoonji, who translated. She says we need to leave now. She can sense Vrin influence in the commander. It's subtle, but it's there. He'll betray us within the hour. Can you prove that? Lee Hyun demanded. No, but my people have some natural resistance to Vrin manipulation. We can sense their presence like an itch in the mind. Your commander has that feeling around him. Yoon Do-yeon looked at Lee Hyun. Captain, what do we do? This was the moment everything changed. If they ran, they became traitors. If they stayed, they might die, or worse, let the truth die with them. Lee Hyun thought about his brother, about all the soldiers who had died thinking they were protecting their homes. They deserved to know the truth. Kim Nari, copy that data core. Everything on it. Park Tae-yang, prep the ship for immediate departure. Choi Bora, plot us a course to the nearest major communication relay. We're really doing this, Yoon Do-yeon asked. We're really doing this, Lee Hyun confirmed. They moved quickly. Kim Nari's fingers flew across her equipment, copying the data onto multiple encrypted drives. Park Tae-yang ran to prep the ship. Dr. Song Yoonji, to everyone's surprise, grabbed her personal belongings. I'm coming with you, she said. You'll need someone who can translate for the princess. And honestly, I've been waiting 20 years for a chance to stop this war. As they rushed toward the docking bay, alarms began to sound. Commander Han Minho's voice echoed through the station. Security alert. Captain Lee Hyun and his team are to be detained immediately. They are in possession of stolen intelligence and are considered hostile. So much for the hour warning, Park Tae-yang muttered. They ran through the corridors with station security closing in behind them. Velthara struggled to keep pace, still weak from her injuries. But Kim Nari and Yoon Do-hyun supported her between them. They burst into the docking bay just as security teams arrived from the opposite entrance. Get on the ship, Lee Hyun shouted. He and Park Tae-yang laid down covering fire, not aiming to kill but to force the security teams to take cover. It worked, buying them precious seconds. They scrambled aboard and Choi Bora had the engines hot before the airlock even finished cycling. The ship tore away from the station as weapons fire sparked against their shields. We're clear, Choi Bora announced, but we're also officially fugitives now. No going back from this. Lee Hyun looked at his team, at Dr. Song Yoonji, and at Princess Velthara. They had given up everything based on faith that an enemy was telling them the truth. He hoped they were right. He hoped his brother's death hadn't been in vain. Set course for the relay station, he ordered. We're going to make sure everyone knows what we know. The Vrin want a war? Let's give them something they didn't expect. The truth. Velthara placed her hand over her heart, and what Dr. Song Yoonji explained was a quilver gesture of deep respect. When she spoke, her words needed no translation. They were in this together now, human and Quilvar, united against a common enemy. The war was about to change in ways nobody could predict. The Quilver research station hung in orbit around a gas giant, its architecture beautiful and alien. Captain Lee Hyun studied it through the view screen and felt his stomach tighten. They were deep in enemy territory now, hunted by both sides, relying on information from a princess who claimed to know where they could find more evidence. The research station holds backup copies of the intelligence files, Princess Velthara explained through Dr. Song Yoonji's translation. My people are thorough. Even when they tried to destroy the evidence, they kept redundant systems. Old habit from centuries of careful record-keeping. How do we get in without being shot on sight? Lieutenant Choi Bora asked. That station has enough firepower to vaporize us before we get close. Velthara looked uncomfortable. We use my royal access codes. They might still work. The Vrin compromised leadership would need time to revoke all my clearances. Might still work isn't exactly reassuring, Park Tae-yang muttered, but they had come too far to turn back now. The data they had copied from the first core was damning, but they needed more. They needed evidence so overwhelming that nobody could deny it, not even those under Vrin influence. As they approached the station, Velthara transmitted her codes. The wait was agonizing. Every second felt like an eternity as they expected weapons to lock onto them. We're being hailed, Kim Nari announced. They're asking for visual confirmation of identity. Velthara moved in front of the communication screen. She spoke in her own language. her voice carrying authority that even the humans could recognize. The response came quickly, and the princess turned to them with visible relief. "They're allowing us to dock, but we must be quick. They will report my presence to higher command within minutes." The station was eerily beautiful inside. The Quilvar built with curves and organic shapes that human architecture rarely attempted. Velthara led them through corridors that seemed to flow like water frozen in time. They passed Quilvar researchers who stopped and stared at their princess walking with human soldiers. "The research archive is 3 levels down," Dr. Song Yunji translated as Velthara spoke. "But there's a problem. The entrance requires 2 royal family members to access. I cannot open it alone." "Then how do we get in?" Li Hyun demanded. Before Velthara could answer, alarms blared throughout the station. A voice spoke in Quilvar, and Dr. Song Yunji's face went pale. "They're saying Princess Velthara is a traitor. All personnel are ordered to detain her on site. We need to move now," Park Taeyang urged. They ran through the station, but it was too late. Quilvar security forces appeared ahead of them, weapons drawn. Li Hyun raised his rifle, knowing they were outnumbered and outgunned. Then someone new stepped through the security line. He was tall like Velthara, with the same regal bearing. His skin was darker blue, and his eyes held cold fury. When he spoke, his voice needed no translation to convey its contempt. "Prince Tarvesh," Dr. Song Yunji whispered. "Her brother." Velthara stepped forward, speaking rapidly in Quilvar. Her brother responded, and the 2 royals engaged in what was clearly a heated argument. Dr. Song Yunji struggled to keep up with the translation. She's showing him the evidence. She's explaining about the Vrin. He's saying she's insane, that she's been influenced by human propaganda. She's saying to look at the data to see the truth. He's refusing to listen. The argument grew more intense. Velthara pulled up files on her portable device showing communications and evidence. Her brother looked at it, and for a moment something flickered in his eyes. Doubt, recognition. Then his expression hardened again. "He won't listen," Dr. Song Yunji translated. "The Vrin influence is too strong in him. He's ordering security to take everyone into custody." "Like hell," Park Taeyang growled, raising his weapon. But Velthara held up her hand, speaking firmly. Dr. Song Yunji's voice was tight with tension as she translated. "She's invoking royal challenge. It's a Quilvar tradition, single combat to resolve disputes of honor. If she wins, her brother must listen. If she loses, we surrender peacefully." "You're wounded," Yoon Do-hyun protested. "You can't fight him." Velthara looked at the medic and smiled sadly. "I must, it's the only way." The security forces cleared a space. Prince Taravesh removed his weapons and outer armor. Velthara did the same, exposing the bandages that still covered her wound. The humans watched helplessly as the 2 Quilvar royals faced each other. The fight was brief and brutal. Tarvesh was stronger and uninjured. He struck his sister hard enough to send her sprawling. She got up, blood seeping through her bandages. He hit her again, and again. Kim Nari grabbed Li Hyun's arm. "We have to stop this. He's going to kill her." "If we interfere, we break their rules," Li Hyun said, his voice strained. "We lose any chance of alliance." Velthara was on her knees now, barely able to stand. Her brother stood over her, speaking words that Dr. Song Yunji translated with horror. "You betrayed our people. You betrayed our family. You will die a traitor's death." He raised his hand for the killing blow, but Velthara, with her last strength, grabbed his arm and pulled him close. She pressed her forehead against his and spoke a single word. The effect was immediate. Prince Tarvesh stumbled backward, his eyes going wide. He shook his head like he was trying to clear water from his ears. He looked at his sister, then at the security forces, then back at his sister. When he spoke again, his voice was different, confused. "What did she do?" Choibora asked. Dr. Song Yunji's voice was filled with wonder. "It's called memory sharing. A rare Quilvar ability. She forced him to see her memories directly. Everything she experienced, everything she learned about the Vrin. He can't deny what he's seen through her own eyes." Prince Taravesh fell to his knees beside his sister. He spoke urgently, and she responded weakly. Then he shouted orders to the security forces, and to everyone's surprise, they lowered their weapons. "He believes her now," Dr. Song Yunji said. "He's ordering his forces to help us access the archives." But there was no time to celebrate. The station's command had been alerted, and Vrin-influenced officers were sending troops to stop them. The prince helped his wounded sister stand, and together they led the group deeper into the station. They reached the archive entrance just as hostile forces appeared behind them. The royal siblings placed their hands on the security panel together, and the door opened. Inside was a vault filled with data storage systems. "Take everything you can carry," Lee Hyun ordered. Kim Nari and Park Tae-yang started downloading files while the others held the entrance. The hostile forces were closing in, and this time they weren't trying to capture anyone. Energy weapons fire filled the corridor. "We need to go," Choi Bora shouted. Park Tae-yang armed explosive charges at the archive entrance. "This will buy us time, but not much." They ran back toward the docking bay with both friendly and hostile Quilvar forces fighting around them. The station was tearing itself apart as those freed from Vrin influence fought those still compromised. It was chaos, and in the chaos they almost made it. Almost. A blast caught Park Tae-yang in the back, throwing him forward. He hit the ground hard and didn't move. Yoon Do-yoon and Lee Hyun dragged him toward the ship while the others provided covering fire. The demolitions expert was bleeding badly, his armor cracked open. "He's not going to make it," Yoon Do-yoon said desperately. "The wound is too severe. Even if I stop the bleeding, there's internal damage I can't treat." Velthara pushed forward despite her own injuries. She knelt beside Park Tae-yang and placed her hands on his wound. She spoke in Quilvar, and Dr. Song Yoonji's voice was shaky as she translated. "She's asking permission to try forbidden healing techniques. It's dangerous. It might not work, but it's his only chance. Do it," Lee Hyun ordered. What happened next was beyond human understanding. Velthara's hands began to glow with a soft blue light. She sang in harmonics that made the air vibrate. Park Tae-yang's body convulsed once, then went still. For a horrible moment, they thought he was dead. Then he gasped and opened his eyes. "The pain. It's gone," he whispered in shock. "We must go now," Prince Taravesh urged. "More forces are coming." They carried Park Tae-yang onto the ship. Prince Taravesh stayed behind with the security forces loyal to him. He and his sister exchanged words, then a brief embrace. As the ship pulled away from the station, they saw the prince and his troops holding the docking bay against overwhelming numbers. "He's buying us time to escape," Dr. Song Yoonji explained. "He's sacrificing himself." Velthara watched through the view screen as her brother fought. Tears ran down her alien face, glowing faintly in the dim light. She spoke softly, and Dr. Song Yoonji translated one last time. He finally understood. My brother finally saw the truth. And now he's going to die for it. The ship jumped to faster than light speed, leaving the battle behind. But they carried with them more than just data. They carried proof that Quilvar and humans could work together. They carried hope that the war might end. And they carried the weight of sacrifice that hope demanded. Park Tae-yang sat up slowly, looking at his hands in amazement. The wound that should have killed him was healed. He looked at Velthara and spoke in broken Quilvar that he had learned from listening to her. "Thank you." The princess smiled through her tears and responded in broken English. "We are family now. We protect family." And in that moment something changed. They weren't just allies of convenience anymore. They were something. The abandoned relay station drifted in deep space, forgotten by both sides of the war. It was perfect for their purposes. Captain Lee Hyun watched as Dr. Kang Ji-won set up her equipment in what had once been the station's laboratory. The exobiologist had joined them 3 days ago, responding to an encrypted message Kim Nari had sent to trusted contacts. "You're sure about this?" Lee Hyun asked her. "Once you help us, there's no going back. You'll be a fugitive just like the rest of us." Dr. Kang Ji-won didn't look up from her microscope. "I've been studying Vrin parasites for 2 years. Nobody believed me when I said they were real. Nobody wanted to hear that we might be fighting a war we didn't start." She finally met his eyes. "So yes, Captain. I'm sure." Princess Velthara approached, moving more easily now that her wounds were healing. She spoke in her melodic language, and Dr. Song Yoonji translated. "She wants to know if you found a way to identify the Vrin-compromised individuals." "I think so," Dr. Kang Ji-won replied. "The Vrin don't take complete control. They're more like parasitic suggestions, amplifying negative emotions and thoughts, but they do leave traces. Specific neural patterns that show up in advanced brain scans. The problem is we'd need to scan everyone in leadership to know who's compromised." "That's impossible," Lieutenant Choi Bora said from where she was repairing the ship's systems. "We can't exactly walk into command and ask everyone to submit to brain scans." Park Tae-yang, still recovering but mobile thanks to Velthara's healing, studied the data they had gathered. What about that Commander Han Minho? The princess said she sensed Vrin influence in him. Could we confirm it? If we had a recording of his neural patterns, yes, Dr. Kang Jiwon confirmed. But we don't. Kim Nari raised her hand hesitantly. Actually, we might. I recorded everything that happened at the trade station, including biometric data. It's standard procedure for intelligence gathering. I have Han Minho's vitals, including basic neural activity. Dr. Kang Jiwon pulled up the data and ran it through her analysis programs. The results made her pause. He's definitely compromised, but it's not complete control. The Vrin amplified his ambition and his fear of career failure. They made him more willing to betray you to protect his position. So he might not even know he's being influenced, Corporal Yoon Do-hyun said quietly. That's terrifying. How many others are like that? How many people think they're making rational decisions when they're actually being manipulated? Velthara spoke at length, and Dr. Song Yoonji translated carefully. She says her people have some natural resistance to Vrin influence. Not immunity, but they can sense the presence of Vrin energy. That's why the parasites focused so heavily on infiltrating human command structures. Humans are more vulnerable to their manipulation. That's not exactly comforting, Choi Bora muttered. But it means working together makes us stronger, Lee Hyun pointed out. If Quilvar can sense Vrin presence and humans can provide the military force, we have a fighting chance. The light suddenly flickered. All of them immediately went on alert, grabbing weapons. The station's sensor showed nothing, but the temperature had dropped noticeably. What's happening? Park Taeyang asked. Velthara's eyes went wide with fear. She spoke urgently, and Dr. Song Yoonji's voice was shaky with translation. Vrin. Here. Close, very close. How is that possible? Dr. Kang Jiwon demanded. This station is abandoned. Nobody knows we're here. They can sense when their influence is being studied, the exobiologist realized. My research must have attracted their attention. They're drawn to threats against their control. The shadows in the corners of the laboratory seemed to deepen. The air felt thick, wrong somehow. Lee Hyun's instincts screamed danger, but there was nothing to shoot at, nothing visible to fight. Then the shadows moved. The thing that manifested was nightmare given form. It had no fixed shape, constantly shifting between something almost solid and pure darkness. Eyes opened and closed across its surface, too many eyes in colors that shouldn't exist. When it spoke, the sound came from inside their heads rather than through the air. You should not have interfered, the Vrin entity said, its voice like grinding metal. You were given a simple war to fight. Why could you not simply die as intended? Velthara stepped forward, speaking in her own language. The Vrin responded in kind, and Dr. Song Yoonji struggled to translate the rapid exchange. She's challenging it. She's saying her people survived Vrin predation before and will do so again. It's laughing. It's saying this time is different. This time they have humans to fight for them. We're not fighting for you, Lee Hyun said, aiming his rifle at the thing even though he doubted bullets would help. Not anymore. The Vrin's attention turned to him and he felt its presence trying to push into his mind. Suddenly his thoughts were full of anger and suspicion. Why was he trusting an alien princess? She was probably lying. His brother died because of the Quilvar. He should kill her now, end this farce. But then Velthara was there, placing her hand on his shoulder. The touch broke the Vrin's mental assault and Lee Hyun gasped as his own thoughts returned. They're psychic parasites, Dr. Kang Jiwon shouted, backing away from the entity. Don't let it into your head. The Vrin manifested more fully now, growing larger and more solid. You cannot stop us. We have infected both your civilizations too deeply. Even if you expose us, the hatred and fear we have cultivated will remain. You will destroy each other, and we will feast on the carnage. Park Taeyang moved to fire his weapon, but the Vrin was faster. A tendril of shadow struck him, and he screamed as dark energy coursed through him. Yoon Do-hyun ran to help, only to be thrown across the room by an invisible force. We need to work together, Velthara shouted in broken English, then switched to Quilvar. Dr. Song Yoonji translated frantically. She says Vrin feed on division and negative emotion. Unity and positive energy weakens them. We must fight as one, Kim Nari understood first. She moved beside Velthara, and together they projected a focused determination. Not hatred, not fear, but a simple resolve to protect each other. The effect was immediate. The Vrin recoiled slightly from their combined presence. Everyone, get close, Lee Hyun ordered. Focus on why we're fighting. Not anger at the Vrin, but protection of each other. The team gathered around Velthara, forming a circle. The princess began to sing in those strange harmonics, and this time the humans tried to join in. Their voices couldn't match hers, but the intention was there. They were different species, former enemies, but in this moment they were united. The Vryn shrieked, a sound that made their ears bleed. It lashed out with tendrils of shadow trying to break their formation. Dr. Kang Jiwon went down, Dr. Song Yunji was struck and fell. But the others held firm, maintaining their circle, their united determination. Velthara's song grew stronger. Her skin began to glow with that same blue light she had used to heal Park Taeyang. But this time the light spread to the humans around her. They felt it in their minds, a warmth that pushed back the cold presence of the Vryn. You cannot win. The Vryn hissed, its form becoming less solid. We are eternal. We are inevitable. But we are here, Li Hyun said, and we choose to stand together. The combined force of their unity, enhanced by Velthara's psychic abilities, was too much for the single Vryn entity. It screamed once more, then dissipated into nothing, leaving only a faint stench of decay. The team collapsed, exhausted. Dr. Song Yunji and Dr. Kang Jiwon were injured but alive. Yoon Do-hyun immediately began treating them while the others caught their breath. We actually heard it, Kim Nari said in amazement. We fought a psychic parasite and won. One entity, Velthara corrected in careful English. Many more exist, in governments and military everywhere, but now we know they can be beaten. Dr. Kang Jiwon, despite her injuries, was already taking readings. The energy signature it left behind, I can analyze this. We can create scanners to detect Vryn presence. We can identify compromised individuals, and then what? Choi Bora asked. We can't kill everyone who's been influenced. Most of them probably don't even know it's happening. We don't kill them, Li Hyun said. We expose the Vryn. We show people what's really been controlling them. And we offer them the same thing that just saved us, unity. Human and Quilvar working together is the Vryn's worst nightmare. Velthara nodded, her expression determined despite her exhaustion. She spoke in Quilvar, and Dr. Song Yunji translated from her position on the floor. The princess says it's time to stop running. It's time to take the fight to both our governments. Time to force our people to see the truth whether they want to or not. Park Taeyang checked his weapon and grinned despite the pain he was in. So we're going to infiltrate the most heavily defended installations in known space and try to convince everyone that an invisible psychic parasite has been manipulating the war. Sounds insane. It is insane, Li Hyun agreed, which is probably why it might actually work. They had defeated one Vryn entity, but hundreds more lurked in positions of power across both empires. The real war was just beginning, but now they had something the Vryn didn't expect, proof that humans and Quilvar could stand together, and in that unity, they were stronger than any parasite. The next phase. The plan was simple, which meant it was probably going to get them all killed. Captain Li Hyun looked at the tactical display showing 2 targets, Earth's command citadel and the Quilvar throne world. They would need to infiltrate both simultaneously, expose the Vryn corruption in both governments at the same time. If they only hit one target, the other side would simply deny everything and continue the war. We have to split the team, Li Hyun said. The words tasted like poison in his mouth. They had survived this long by staying together. Separating meant some of them might not come back. Princess Velthara stood beside him looking at the display. She spoke in English now, her grasp of the language improving daily through her natural learning abilities. I must return to my home. My people will only listen if I speak to them directly. They need to see their princess alive. I'm going with her, Kim Nari said immediately. Someone needs to watch her back, and I know how to work the communication equipment. We'll need to broadcast the evidence to every corner of Quilvar space. Park Taeyang checked his weapons. I'll go too. The princess saved my life. I owe her a debt. No, Velthara said firmly. You stay with Captain. He needs your skills more. I will take Dr. Song Yunji for translation and Dr. Kang Jiwon to prove the Vryn detection methods. Li Hyun wanted to argue, but she was right. The teams needed to be balanced. He looked at Kim Nari, his communication expert and friend. Are you sure about this? Kim Nari smiled. Someone has to make sure the princess doesn't do anything too heroic. Besides, I've always wanted to see the Quilvar homeworld. Just never thought it would be like this. They had one advantage. a coded message from Prince Tarvesh before his death. He had sent them access codes and safe routes into the throne world. On the human side, they had something even more valuable. Agent Xin Wu had joined them 2 days ago, a grizzled intelligence operative who had been investigating Vrin activity independently. "I can get you into the Citadel," Xin Wu said, studying the Earth defense grid, "but once you're inside, you're on your own. The Vrin have corrupted High Command deeply. You'll be walking into a nest of parasites." "Then we better move fast," Li Hyun replied. They split up at a neutral jump point. Velthara's ship, piloted by Lieutenant Choi Bora, would head for the Quilvar throne world. Li Hyun's ship, with Park Taeyang, Yoon Do-hyun, and Agent Xin Wu, would approach Earth from an unexpected vector. As the ships separated, Kim Nari sent one last message to Li Hyun. "Don't get killed, Captain. We still need to grab drinks when this is over and complain about how crazy our lives have become." Li Hyun smiled despite the fear in his chest. "Same to you. Keep the princess safe." The approach to Earth took 3 days of careful navigation. Agent Xin Wu's codes got them past the outer defense perimeter, and stolen identification got them through the inner checkpoints. They landed at a military facility on the outskirts of the Citadel just as scheduled. "Command meeting starts in 2 hours, Xin Wu explained. "That's when the entire War Council will be in one room. That's your window. Get in, upload the evidence to their systems, and pray they listen before they shoot you." Getting into the Citadel was easier than expected, which made Li Hyun nervous. They moved through corridors that should have been heavily guarded but weren't. Park Taeyang noticed it too. "This feels wrong," the demolitions expert muttered. "Where is everyone?" They got their answer when they reached the War Council chamber. It was filled with guards, at least 30 of them, all armed and waiting. In the center of the room stood the human commanders, and Li Hyun could see it immediately. The Vrin influence hung around them like a shadow. His training from Velthara allowed him to sense it now, that cold presence of parasitic control. "Captain Li Hyun," one of the generals said. His voice was flat, emotionless. "We've been expecting you. Did you really think we wouldn't anticipate this move?" Agent Xin Wu stepped forward, and Li Hyun's heart sank. The operative's expression had changed, becoming cold and distant. "I'm sorry, Captain," Xin Wu said, "but you're a threat to the natural order. The war must continue. The Vrin have shown me the truth of that." "You're compromised," Li Hyun said, raising his weapon even though he knew it was hopeless. "You're all compromised. The Vrin are using you to destroy both our species. The Vrin are ensuring that the weak are culled and the strong survive," another commander said. "This is how evolution works. Why should we resist?" Park Taeyang and Yoon Do-hyun moved beside Li Hyun, weapons ready. 3 against 30, all to upload a data file that might not even be believed. These were terrible odds, even by their standards. But Li Hyun had planned for betrayal. He had 1 card left to play. "Now would be good," he said into his comm device. The wall exploded inward. Through the breach came soldiers, human soldiers who had been waiting in position. These were the loyal ones, troops that Agent Xin Wu had secretly vetted before his own compromise. They poured into the chamber, evening the odds. "You think these few soldiers can stop us?" the general asked. "We control Earth's entire military infrastructure." "Maybe not," Li Hyun replied, moving toward the central computer terminal. "But they can buy me 30 seconds. That's all I need." The firefight was chaos. Li Hyun ran for the terminal while his team covered him. Park Taeyang's explosives brought down half the ceiling, creating cover and confusion. Yoon Do-hyun dragged wounded soldiers to safety while returning fire. The loyal troops fought with desperate determination against their compromised officers. Li Hyun reached the terminal and began the upload. The evidence flowed into Earth's military network, spreading like wildfire. Everything they had learned about the Vrin, every communication showing manipulation, every piece of proof that the war was orchestrated. A shot caught him in the shoulder. He stumbled but kept working. Almost done. Just a few more seconds, Agent Xin Wu appeared beside him, weapon raised. The operative's hand trembled as he aimed at Li Hyun's head. "I have to stop you." "The Vrin demand it." "Then do it," Li Hyun said, still working. "But the upload is already complete. The truth is spreading. Everyone will see what the Vrin have done." Xin Wu's finger tightened on the trigger. Then he hesitated. Somewhere deep inside, the real agent was fighting back against the parasitic influence. His hand shook harder. "Fight it," Li Hyun urged. "I know you're still in there. Fight it. The weapon lowered slightly. Shinwu's face contorted with effort, sweat pouring down his forehead. Can't. Too strong, but I can do this. He turned and fired at the compromised general instead. Then he turned the weapon on himself. Tell my family. I died. For the right reasons. Shinwu gasped and pulled the trigger. Li Hyun had no time to mourn. The upload was complete. Now he had to make sure people actually saw it. He activated the broadcast system, hijacking every military channel in the solar system. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Princess Velthara was making her own desperate play. The throne world was beautiful beyond description, but Kim Nari barely noticed. They had fought their way into the royal palace using codes that Prince Tarvesh had died to provide. Dr. Song Yunji and Dr. Kang Jiwan had broadcasted evidence across Quilvar communication networks. But it wasn't enough. They needed the Emperor himself to acknowledge the truth. They found him in the throne room, surrounded by guards. Velthara's father was an imposing figure, larger than his daughter, his skin decorated with royal markings. But around him hung the unmistakable shadow of Vryn corruption. Father, Velthara called out in Quilvar. Dr. Song Yunji translated for Kim Nari. I have returned to show you what you have become, to free you from the parasites that control your mind. The Emperor laughed, but it was a cold sound. You presume to lecture me, daughter? You who brought humans into our sacred palace? You are the traitor they named you. Then let me prove my loyalty, Velthara said. She raised her hands, and Kim Nari realized what she was about to do. The memory-sharing technique, the one she had used on her brother. But the Emperor was more heavily compromised. It might not work. It might kill her. Velthara, don't, Kim Nari shouted, but the princess was already moving forward. Guards tried to stop her, but she moved with a speed Kim Nari hadn't seen before. She reached her father and pressed her forehead against his. The psychic energy that erupted was visible even to human eyes. Blue light poured from Velthara as she forced every memory, every piece of evidence directly into her father's mind. The Emperor screamed. The Vryn entities inhabiting his consciousness fought back, and the princess screamed too. The guards surrounded them, weapons ready. Kim Nari stood in front of the struggling royals, her rifle raised. Hold me closer than their weapons, she said, not sure who she was talking to anymore. Maybe the princess. Maybe herself. But she wasn't going to let anyone shoot Velthara while she was vulnerable. Dr. Kang Jiwan activated the Vryn detection device, and suddenly the guards could see what Kim Nari had only sensed. The dark energy of Vryn presence visible on their scanners, crawling around the Emperor like living smoke. Some of the guards hesitated. They could see the parasite now. They could see what was controlling their ruler. The Emperor collapsed and Velthara fell with him. For a terrible moment, Kim Nari thought they were both dead. Then the Emperor opened his eyes and they were clear. 6 months had passed since the day everything changed. Captain Li Hyun stood at the observation window of the new peace station, watching ships from both human and Quilvar fleets patrol together in formation. It still felt surreal, seeing vessels that had been trying to kill each other now flying side by side. The station floated in neutral space, built from salvaged parts of both human and Quilvar military installations. It was ugly, functional, and absolutely beautiful in what it represented, a place where former enemies could meet not as conquerors or conquered, but as allies. Li Hyun touched his shoulder where Agent Shinwu's final shot had grazed him. The wound had healed, but the memory remained. So many had died in those final desperate hours. The brave souls who had fought beside him in the Citadel, the Quilvar guards who had given their lives protecting their freed emperor, and Shinwu himself who had found just enough strength to resist the Vryn and do one last good thing. You're thinking about him again, Kim Nari said, approaching from behind. She wore a diplomatic uniform now, her role having shifted from communications expert to something more official, ambassador to the Quilvar Empire, though she hated the formal title. Someone should remember him, Li Hyun replied. He saved us all in the end. A lot of people saved us all, Kim Nari reminded him. She gestured to the memorial wall nearby where names were inscribed in both human and Quilvar languages. Prince Tarvesh was there, along with hundreds of others who had died fighting the Vryn or in the war that had preceded the revelation. The door opened, and Princess Velthara entered. Except she wasn't just a princess anymore. With her father still recovering from the trauma of Vryn possession, she had taken on the role of Queen Regent, leading her people through the difficult process of peace and recovery. She moved with more confidence now, her wounds long healed. She wore robes that blended Quilvar royal design with practical military elements. When she saw Lee Hyun and Kim Nari, her expression softened into something that might have been a smile. "Captain, Ambassador," she greeted them in near-perfect English. "I hope I am not interrupting." "Never," Kim Nari said warmly. The bond between the two had grown strong during their mission to the throne world. They had faced death together, and that created connections that transcended species. "I came to tell you that the memorial service is ready," Velthara explained. "Both our peoples wish to honor those who fell." "Will you speak?" Lee Hyun hesitated. Public speaking had never been his strength. He was a soldier, not a diplomat, but these people deserved to be remembered by someone who had known them, who had fought beside them. "I'll speak," he agreed. The memorial service was held in the station's largest hall. Thousands attended, either in person or via communication link. Humans and Quilvar filled the space together, no longer separated by fear and hatred. Lee Hyun saw Lieutenant Choi Bora in the crowd, now commanding the first mixed-species exploration vessel. Beside her stood Park Tae-yang, who had taken on the role of training Joint Special Forces units. He bore both human and Quilvar military honors on his uniform, a visible symbol of the new alliance. Corporal Yoon Do-yeon was there too, having thrown himself into establishing medical exchange programs between the two species. Quilvar healing techniques combined with human medical technology were saving lives that would have been lost before. Dr. Song Yoonji and Dr. Kang Ji-won sat together, their work on Vrin detection methods having become the foundation for ongoing security protocols. The parasites hadn't been eliminated, merely driven underground. But now both civilizations knew what to look for. When it was time for Lee Hyun to speak, he approached the podium with reluctance. He looked out at the assembled faces, human and Quilvar, all watching him expectantly. "I'm not good with words," he began. "I'm better at following orders and completing missions. But the people we honor today, they taught me something important. They taught me that sometimes the mission isn't what you think it is." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "We thought we were fighting a war against each other. We thought we were protecting our homes and our families. And we were. But we were doing it exactly the way our real enemy wanted us to." Velthara stood beside him now, offering silent support. He continued. "Agent Shin Woo died breaking free from Vrin control long enough to help us. Prince Tarvish sacrificed himself, buying time for the truth to spread. Dozens of soldiers on both sides gave their lives in those final battles, not knowing if their sacrifice would matter. They died hoping that their deaths might mean something more than just another casualty in a pointless war." The hall was completely silent now. Lee Hyun felt the weight of every eye on him. They didn't die for nothing. Because of them, humans and Quilvar stand together now. Because of them, we see the real enemy. Because of them, we have a chance to build something better than what came before. He looked at the memorial wall, at all those names. We can never bring them back. We can never undo the pain and loss. But we can make sure their sacrifice led to something worth having. We can build a future where no one else has to die because invisible parasites wanted us to hate each other. Velthara stepped forward, speaking in Quilvar with simultaneous translation. "In my culture, we believe that those who die protecting others become part of the eternal song. Their voices join the chorus of ancestors who guide us. Today, human and Quilvar voices join that song together. We are no longer separate peoples singing separate melodies. We are one chorus, singing against the darkness." The ceremony concluded with a moment of silence, then both human and Quilvar musical traditions honored the dead. The sounds were different, but they harmonized in unexpected ways. After the service, Lee Hyun found himself in a quiet corner with Velthara and Kim Nari. They looked out at the stars together, each lost in their own thoughts. "Do you think it will last?" Kim Nari asked quietly. "This peace we've built?" "It has to," Velthara replied. "The Vrin are still out there. They retreated, but they will try again. If we divide, they win. Then we don't divide," Lee Hyun said simply. "We stay vigilant. We stay together. And we remember why we started fighting as allies in the first place." Park Tae-yang joined them, his expression serious. "Got a mission brief if you're interested, Captain. New mixed human Quilvar special operations team. Hunting remaining Vrin cells in the outer sectors. Dangerous work. Probably get us all killed." Li Hyun looked at his friend and saw the same determination he'd seen in that collapsed facility 6 months ago. Who else is going? Me, obviously, Park Taeyang said. Choi Bora volunteered to pilot. Yoon Do-hyun is coming as medic. And we've got about a dozen Quilvar warriors who want payback for what the Vrin did to their families. Sounds like my kind of mission, Li Hyun replied. Velthara placed her hand on his shoulder. I cannot join you. My duties as Queen Regent keep me here, but know that you carry the hopes of both our peoples. No pressure then, Li Hyun said with a slight smile. Kim Nari hugged him tightly. Come back in one piece. I'm tired of visiting soldiers in medical facilities. I'll do my best, he promised. As Li Hyun walked toward the briefing room with Park Taeyang, he thought about how much had changed. 6 months ago, he had been a soldier fighting an enemy he didn't understand. Now he was part of something bigger, something that might actually change the galaxy for the better. The Vrin weren't defeated. They were still out there, plotting and manipulating and feeding on conflict wherever they could find it. But they had lost their greatest weapon, the ability to make humans and Quilvar hate each other. In the briefing room, the new mixed species team assembled. Humans and Quilvar in equal numbers, all wearing modified armor that combined the best features of both designs. Choi Bora projected a star map showing suspected Vrin activity. We've got reports of 3 systems showing signs of manipulation, she explained. Species that were peaceful suddenly going to war. Same pattern we saw with us. Our job is to investigate, confirm Vrin presence, and neutralize the threat. Rules of engagement? A Quilvar warrior asked in accented English. Save the innocent. Expose the parasites. Work together, Li Hyun replied. Same as always. The team nodded in agreement. They knew the risks. They knew some of them might not return. But they also knew they were fighting for something that mattered. As the briefing concluded, Li Hyun found himself thinking back to that moment in the underground facility. When he had made the choice to save an enemy princess instead of leaving her to die, it had seemed like a mistake at the time. A dangerous, potentially fatal decision. But that choice had led to everything that followed. It had sparked the alliance that defeated the Vrin manipulation. It had brought together 2 species that had been designed to destroy each other. One moment of compassion in the middle of war had changed the course of galactic history. Later that evening, as the team prepared for departure, Li Hyun stood once more at the observation window. The data core that Velthara had protected so desperately now sat in a museum, a reminder of what one person's courage could accomplish.